onto the food which they had captured, the animals they captured, and they slaughtered these animals as sacrifices, but didn't wait to eat it. And so Shaul was upset with them, and he dedicated a stone as an altar. They sprinkle the blood on the altar and then eat their animals. Okay, we've got that sorted out as well. Okay, then Shaul comes up with this idea: let's continue the fight, even though it's got dark. And the normal thing was to end the battle. And the Philistines are on the run in any case. If we go after them now, then we'll really manage to finish them off and we won't have to worry about it in the future. This seemed a brilliant idea on the wave of their success. But the Kohen Gadol said, well, maybe we should ask God first. Means it's true the battle today was a success, but it's already a new day. Maybe a new day is a new mazel. Who says God wants us to do it? Okay, so they brought the Urim and Tumim, right? And God didn't answer them. And this became a shock. Horror. How come God's not answering us? Why is he not happy with us? Why is he not speaking? He wanted to tell us not to fight. Not to fight. But didn't answer. So Shaul realized that somebody had done something wrong, and therefore we were undeserving of God's pleasure. God was not happy with us. But we don't know who it is. It could be Shaul, it could be Yonasan, it could be the people, it could be anybody. Right? But who's it going to be? So that's what we got up to, right?
Yeah. Lamed Ches.
What do you say, page?
Page 39 plus.
Page 39.
39?
Yeah,
Oh, you know, page.
Can't miss a day.
Yeah.
39?
Yeah.
Page 39. Pasuk Lamed Ches. So, in Pasuk Lamed Ches, we found out that they asked the ark. They asked God. And God didn't answer them. He asked them, should we go and fight the Philistines? Will we be successful? And God didn't answer them on that day. On that day implied that in past experience, they had been answered. We hadn't actually referenced in the book to a time when they'd asked, but it looks like that this was not an uncommon thing that Shaul would ask, and this was his answer. Sometimes he would ask Shmuel.
It was not an uncommon thing.
Well, it looks like it was not uncommon, right?
Okay.
Because it says he wasn't answered on that day. That implied that at other times he was answered.
I thought you said this was the first time ever.
No, it's the first time it's mentioned.
Oh.
That doesn't mean it's the first. That means it's not the first time that could Yeshua used it. It could be lots of people use it on the way. And not every time it was used is it mentioned, right? But this says he wasn't answered on that day, implying he usually was, and he therefore wants to find out why he's got upset with them. If Shmuel had been there, maybe they would have asked him. Shmuel seems to have been at the beginning of the preparations for the battle, but he may not have actually been at this point. Okay. Shaul. That's when Pasuk 38. Shaul said, Goishu haloim. Goishu means to come close, like Vayigash. Vayigash Elav Yehuda. Right? Vageshes means to draw near. Goishu, come near. Haloim means to this place. We mentioned this a few times. Haloim, God tells Moshe Rabbeinu. That's a different word. That's le'oim. That's le'oim with an aleph. This is God uses the burning bush. He tells Moshe, Al tikrav haloim, don't come closer.
Did Shaul know that Yonasan went out to attack the 20 Plishtim? He's still not aware, right?
Well, he knows that they were missing.
Yes.
Does he not know that?
Because they counted everyone. So the innocent army. They also know there was havoc in the Philistine camp. So he probably put two and two together. There was innocent. I don't know if he knows. It doesn't say he knows. Okay. So Shaul said, draw. Hello means closer.
I thought come close was Gesho.
Right. Geshu means okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Alom really means to this to where I am. Right? God was speaking to Moshe Rabbeinu at the bush. He says, "Don't come to me. Go Yeshu Halom. Come to where I am." Call Pinot Ha'am. Now Pinot means a corner, so it means all the representatives. It means the leader of each brigade, of each unit should come into my inner circle. Udu and know, ura'u and see. That means we want to know and demonstrate. Bama hoisa hachatos hazois hayon. What or in what was the sin? This sin today. What is the sin which has caused God's displeasure and why he's not speaking to us anymore. What is it? Ki, for Chai Hashem, as God lives. That's another way of swearing by God's name. Right? As God lives, I mean, just like God's true, what I'm about to say is going to be true as well. HaMoshiach es Israel, who's the Savior of Israel. As we saw on this day, as it's true that God is the Savior of
Is
Israel.
that like saying, as God is my witness?
Sort of, yeah. All right. Ki in yeshno, for if there is yeshno, is like the word yesh
Right.
is yeshno, there is biyahonatan beni, in Jonathan my son, means even if the sin is in my son, I don't know why she suspected that. It doesn't say he suspected it, just have no idea. But even if it is, no, there's no favoritism over here. Even if it turns out that we work out who the sinner is, my son, ki mois yamus, he will certainly die.
So Shaul is saying now, it doesn't
Doesn't matter who it is.
It's my
There's
son.
no protection. Whoever it is, there's no. It makes a difference.
That's a
Whoever it
bold
is,
statement.
this person die because obviously he's done something that serious that warrants God's anger.
Well, they weren't supposed to. They weren't supposed to attack by the time Yonasan left. Correct me if I'm wrong. So, since he was missing, he could suspect Yonasan, and that's why he's saying it.
No, what's he done wrong?
To
If he
attack.
suspected
It was
his
his-
son.
Attack was an
They're saying
Avera?
he
Why wasn't it allowed to attack?
They weren't supposed to attack.
No, that was before Shaul
That
brought
was
the
after. That
Karbanos.
was after.
Once Shmuel brought the Karbanos, was attacked, right? Okay, so you've no idea. Even if it's Yonasan, I have no idea why it should be Yonasan, but even if it is my favorite big son who's a big tzaddik and I love him dearly, whoever it is, there's no favoritism going. This is going to remove God's anger. Even if it's my son Yonasan, ve'ein onehu, and nobody answered him because ha. You see, the reason, the point is that even though the people knew that Yonasan had done something wrong, no one said, you better be careful before you say that. You know what I mean? Because actually it might be Yonasan. It could be that Shaul didn't really mean if it's Yonasan who'd kill him. It was just like, exaggerating. Right?
Why not?
I don't know. Lots of people say things that they don't mean when it actually comes down to actually having to do it. Yeah, they just threaten or they promise, all sorts of things. When it actually comes down to actually paying out the check, people will have two minds about it. So, but it points out that nobody said anything to Shaul, even though they knew that Yonasan had done something, because he was the one who'd eaten when everybody else was supposed to be eating. Because it says, if nobody answered means people had what to answer. It doesn't say there was nothing to answer. It means people didn't answer. It means people didn't say what was on their minds. But I know you'll be called. All the people, nobody answered. Ayoimel called Yisrael. So you said to all of Israel, look, I've no idea. I'm sure if you did a lot of research, you'd be able to find a good approach. But you'll notice the word for the people is changing all the way through the story. Right?
So-
Sometimes it's called sometimes it's called Yisrael, and obviously there's a reason for it, but I don't know what it is. Vayomer el kol Yisrael. So you said to all of Israel, Atem tiyu le'ever echad. You shall be, Atem, you, tiyu shall be le'ever. Ever means
Passover.
yes, correct. La'avor. Here it means a side, like Abraham Ivri. Abraham was on one side, right?
Abram Menachai?
No, that's with an aleph. That means a limb, right? The different thing. No, this is la'avor, means to pass, because you pass over to the other side, right? When you're on the other side, you must have passed over. You were here, now you're on the other side. So it's the same thing as la'avor, but here it means to a side, to one side. It means you will be on one side, va'ani, and I, v'yonasan b'ni, and Yonasan my son, nihiyeh, we will be le'ever echad on the other side. I think the thing is like this. That means instead of doing a lottery of writing everybody's name down, right? Let's first sort out, is this a crime of the royal family? Because God might be angry. God's not going to be angry because some Jew did something. Yeah, he's not going to if God's not speaking to me, because I'm the one who's asking these questions, either something that all the people did, or something that I did, or Yonasan did. That's like the choice. Therefore, before we do lotteries amongst all the people, which mean writing out 100,000 notes of paper, let's see, is it something that people did or something that we did? Me and Yonasan. So you'll be on one side, and we'll do a lottery. One piece of paper will say Ha'am, and one piece will say Mishpachat Shaul, right? Or something like that. Hambelucha, something about the royal family.
He had kids too. He had other kids.
He had other kids. You'll see at the end of the chapter, I think it talks about his other kids.
So why
Right?
is
They may not have been in a battle, I don't know. Or whatever. Okay. So that's the two sides. It's me and Yonasan on one side, and the rest of the people on the other side. Yomaru Amar Shaul, the people said, he knows to hear the people again. El Shaul, Hatov be'einecha aseh. Do that which is good in your eyes. If you feel fine, no problem. Do what you feel is good. Hatov beinecha, that which is good. Hatov, the good. Beinecha, in your eyes, as say do. Vayomer Shaul el Hashem. So now Shaul's praying that this should work, right? Because who says God's on your side? He's going to help you. Vayomer Shaul el Hashem Elokei Yisrael. He said to the Lord God of Israel, Hava tamim. Hava means to give. Tamim means perfect. Means I'm praying that you should make this test come out to be right. Tamim. Tamim means perfect. Straightforward. Simple. Tamim tiyeh im Hashem Elokecha.
That's what.
Right. What does that mean? It means you should be straightforward with God. Tamim means when everything works out correct, without making calculations. Tamim. Tam, the guy from the Haggadah, right? Tam, what does it mean? No, that's with a tas and an ayin. Ta'alam. This is tam. Echad Rasha, Echad Chacham, Echad Rasha, Echad Tam,
Simple.
Echad She'en Yedei Lisho.
And now
One doesn't know, one doesn't know.
Yeah? So now why therefore, if that's correct, why does it say Yaakov Ish Tam? Think Yaakov was an ignorant? It says Yaakov Ish Tam Yoshev Ohalim. It means, Rashi, it means he learnt in yeshiva. So if he was in yeshiva, why was it Tam?
Wise.
So it means wise. So it doesn't mean, so that's the Chacham. So what is it? So the word Tam means straightforward. You can be straightforward and not be a Chacham because you don't know very much. Life is just straightforward. No big wise guy, right? But in that sense, Yaakov was also like that. Not he wasn't a Chacham, but he wasn't wised up like Esav was. You know, Esav knew every trick in the book. Yaakov was straightforward. It doesn't mean he wasn't a Chacham, but he was straightforward. He was what he was, he said what he meant what he said, he was straightforward. So the word Tam has got slightly different meanings. Can also be a person who's simple, right? But it can also be a guy who's simple in his relationship with people, that he's straightforward. Okay? So here it means more in the sense of to make something work out right, to be without complications. So they did it. What did they do? They did a lottery, presumably, right? I presume they took out pieces of paper and it worked out one side was the people, it came out Shaul. Then they did it again between Shaul and his sons, and it came out to be Yonasan. Sorry. So the first one was the first thing. Yonasan, and they were caught. Caught means this lottery caught one side. They were the ones convicted in the lottery. Yonasan with Shaul, and the people went out. Means they went out of the lottery because they were not part of the accused anymore. And now it was between Shaul and Yonasan. Shaul. So Shaul said, Hapilu. Hapilu means to throw a lottery. Beini ubein Yonasan beni. Between me and between Yonasan. It's one of the two of us. So that's what they did. Yonasan, and Yonasan was caught in the lottery. So now we know Yonasan's done something which caused God's anger to not speak to people and tell them when they should go out to fight. Shaul said to Yonasan, Hagidali, tell me, Me'ar Sisa, what did you do? What did you do wrong? So Yonasan it could be Yonasan didn't have to think about it because it was obvious, even though it's hard for us to understand why that should be an Aveira, but if God's angry about something, right, it wasn't because he didn't wash Negavasa this morning, it's because he ate the honey, which everyone told him, Shaul told everyone they're not allowed to eat from today.
Was that Aveira that he ate or that?
I'll say that, but that's another question, but clearly that's the problem. Well, it's an Aveira, we'll talk about it in a second. Right?
Yonasan, was he the one that told everyone not to eat?
No,
Yonasan-
Shaul. So Shaul was the one who told everyone not to eat.
It's better to eat.
No, he didn't say it's okay to eat. He
Well,
says it
he
was a
said-
mistake for my father to
That could have
insist that
been,
we don't eat.
that could have been
Could
the
also
issue.
be. Let's see what it says. Yonasan told him, I surely tasted biktsei hamateh, with the edge of my stick, asher b'yadi, which is in my hand, ma'at devash, a little bit of honey. It was obvious that was the problem. At least that's what Yonasan said. He didn't say, I shouldn't have criticized you. No, Yonasan doesn't think that's his problem. If God's annoyed with him, then it's because he ate from the honey, which they had been vowed, under vow, not to eat anything that day. Hirini Amos, I am prepared to die. look, if God's angry with me for that, then I'm prepared to die. If that's going to be the atonement for it, that's what I deserve.
But he did the whole thing about saving him.
Yeah, well, I second that. Slowly. Amen, Shaul. Right? Your sentiment is exactly the sentiment of the people, and you'll see it in a second. Now, Yomer Shaul. So Shaul now is in a bit of a dilemma. What's he supposed to do? Kill his son? Yeah, that's what he said he was going to
For
do.
eating honey.
What?
For eating honey.
Yeah. Kayas Elokim. So God should do. Means that he's so good should do to me. V'chayosiv, and so he should add on. Means he should do even more to me if I don't carry out what I said I would do. Now those words are not written in the text, that's what it means. If I don't do what I said I would do, then God should punish me for not doing it. Ki mois tamus Yonasan, surely Yonasan will die for this. So Shaul accepts upon himself his own what's the word? Own judgment for his son, because that's what he said had to be done, and that really felt that does have to be done for some reason or other. This is a terrible sin, big enough that God's really upset and therefore doesn't talk to us anymore. So if that's upsetting, then it deserves. It's not the sort of thing Basin would kill you for, clearly, right? Bosin don't kill people for violating oaths. No.
And even more so to me.
Okay? No, but again, we've mentioned many times that the rules in the Torah of what you get punished for are the limitations, statute of limitations, what Basin are allowed to do as a Basin. The king isn't governed by those rules, and the king is allowed to judge by the severity of the crime based on the how bad the character of the person demonstrated by the act. I heard my Rebbe, my Rosh Hashiva, spoke about this 2 weeks ago. There was a whole alumni of Gateshead, and he mentioned that Basin can't take if you steal somebody's sheep and you slaughter it, and the halacha is you pay 4 times the amount. Basin are not allowed to take in consideration of whether the reason why you did it is because you were very hungry, or the opposite, you were very wealthy and didn't need it and it was really bad. Basin can't take any consideration into account. The Torah says you pay 4 times. The king, HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes that into account for sure. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu punishes, he's not limited by what it says in the Torah, right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, yes, but it's true you stole woman's sheep, but the guy was starving hungry. He didn't have anything else to eat, and if he hadn't eaten that, the whole week he hasn't eaten, right? So therefore, there's mitigating circumstances. On the other hand, it could be exactly the opposite. The guy said, you deserve to die for doing that, because you were nasty. There was a little sheep. The guy next to you was only his whole property is that one sheep, and you had a whole herd of other things. Dafka had to take his sheep, right? So HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not govern by those rules. Those rules are for Basin. So the same thing over here. He's the Melech. The Melech is entitled to say, look, the people, we need God on our side. Obviously, God is very upset for some reason about this terrible oath that was violated, and therefore we have to sort it out. And the only way to get an atonement is to kill him. So that's what we're going to do. So, before Dylan's comments is going to come in a second. The people said to Shaul, Hayonasan Yamus. Hayonasan.
The Yonasan.
Come on, Dylan. Hayonasan.
Question.
Question. How do you know? Because the Chatav Patach and there's no dot in the Yud. Ha Yonasan Yamus. Should Yonasan die? Asher Osa HaYeshua HaGadola HaZois BeYisrael, who did the great salvation, this great salvation in Israel. Well, through him. He was the catalyst for the whole salvation. Chalila, God forbid that we should see him as the guilty party. It's obviously not his fault. That's what it sounds like it's saying. How could it possibly be that HaKadosh Baruch Hu did the salvation through him and he's the guilty party? Now, that's not really conclusive, because if he did do the guilt, it was afterwards.
Right.
Right? Yes, he was a big tzaddik at the beginning of the day, and the whole salvation came through Yonasan, and then he messed up by eating the honey. So it could be.
Right.
It's just, so what are they saying?
Doesn't add up.
It doesn't add up. Not really. Guys can sin. Big tzaddik can sin too. Moshe Rabbeinu sinned, and Yosef the tzaddik sinned. Lots of people sinned, right? So
he also wasn't there when they gave
that's a question, but they didn't say that. So they didn't say, right, which is all the arguments say, that's a sin. First of all, he had no idea. He was no idea that his father had made this oath. Second of all, his father said you weren't allowed to eat, and he didn't eat, he only tasted. Third of all, his father said not eat bread, and it wasn't bread, right? Fourth of all, he was starving hungry. So we said that afterwards his eyes lit up, which means this guy, what Chazal called achzohu bulmus. Bulmus is when you are ravenous to the extent you could even eat on Yom Kippur. That's what bulmus means. Bulmus is a person who's so hungry, right? He's starting to get, it's going to go blackouts, right? Because of lack of sugar or whatever, to oxygen to the brain. So someone like that is allowed to eat. So how can this be considered a problem? Okay, so we don't know HaKadosh Baruch Hu's calculations, right? But that would have been a good argument if the people had said that. But it's funny, they didn't say that. Unless they meant that if he was such a big tzaddik, then, there's a concept like this. You ever heard this idea? You know Bar Pinchas Ben Yoeh? He's the rabbi with a famous donkey.
Wait,
You don't know the story?
this is not the talking donkey.
No, that was Bilam. No, this was a very religious donkey. The Gemara brings a story that Pinchas Ben Yoeh's donkey, he was with his students, and they came to an inn, or they came to a hotel, or a motel, and everyone went to unpack the bags, and in the meantime, someone went to feed the donkey. And the donkey wouldn't eat. So they were worried because, it's been a long journey. There's no reason why the donkey wouldn't eat. They went to the rabbi and they said, "We're trying to give you a donkey to eat. You won't eat." We said, "Well, did you meiser it? Is it kosher? Did you separations from it?" They said, "Well, we don't need to because it's demai. Demai means there's a suffix, and when animals you're allowed to give demai. If you don't meiser it, my donkey won't eat." So they meisered it, and the donkey ate. Right? So you see, Rabbi Leader he's got a very famous donkey, right? That he was very, very frum and wouldn't eat things you're not allowed to eat. So Chazal say from there, the idea is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't bring mistakes even to tzaddikim donkeys, certainly to a tzaddik himself. So Gemara brings a story about a certain tzaddik who was in a certain person's house, and he ended up eating something that wasn't kosher because the people in the kitchen had purposely wanted to make this guy eat something that wasn't kosher. They didn't like him, whatever it was, because he'd said something. I don't remember the story. So he goes, how can it be? If HaKadosh Baruch Hu is careful that even the donkeys of tzaddikim don't make mistakes, certain tzaddik himself, I don't remember what was answer to it, right? But that may be what the idea that's saying over here as well. They said, we don't know, but that this should be considered, anyway, it was a mistake. It wasn't more than a mistake. It wasn't done on purpose, that's for sure. But the thing, a tzaddik can do an affair on purpose, yeah? But this wasn't on purpose, it was a mistake. To think that HaKadosh Baruch Hu should cause a tzaddik to do a mavera by mistake, that's unthinkable. So we know that what?
About Moshe.
No, that was on purpose. It wasn't a mistake.
There was a mistake that
No.
Mavera. He did the action.
No, he knew what he was doing. He knew that look, tzaddikim have bechira, but he was talking about something he didn't have bechira for because he had no idea this was forbidden. So it can't be that HaKadosh Baruch Hu would consider this. It must be that it was okay because it was only a tasting, or it wasn't bread, or because it was stuff. There must be some excuse that he would do something by mistake. On purpose. I don't want to do Averas by purpose. He didn't do it on purpose. Maybe HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to hold it against him for doing it by mistake. That could be, but if the guy did the salvation to this, obviously a tzaddik. That couldn't be. Maybe that's their argument. So what is the answer? Let's see what happens. Ki im Chalila, God forbid, Chai Hashem, as the Lord lives, which was the same expression that Shaul used. Im yipol misaras roishai outsa. So the im here means not. Now, im doesn't usually mean not, but when the word im appears after the expression of an oath, it usually means not. What it really means is there's a half a sentence minced out, but it's easiest way to just translate not. That a hair of his head will not fall to the ground. Yipol is to fall. Sa'ara is a hair. Mi sa'ara, from the hair. Mi sa'arat, from the hairs of Rosho. So we swear by God that not one hair of his head will fall out to the ground. That's an expression no one's going to do anything to him.
He swore?
The people swore. The people swore to Shaul, we're not going to let you do this.
Whoa.
That's what he's saying. Chai Hashem. That's how else can you say? They're swearing to the king that not one hair from Yonasan's hair will fall to the ground. Ki im Elohim asa hayom hazeh. Because with God he did this day.
Mm-hmm.
That means Yonasan was the vehicle through which God saved the day.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, clearly, it's not God's will that you should kill him. Yiftu ha'ames Yonasan, the people redeemed Yonasan. Is their argument got him off the hook? And he didn't die. Now, there is no indication of the answer to the problem. Shaul was convinced that if God didn't speak to them, it's because someone had done some Aveira. Okay? Now, he did the lottery, came out to be Yonasan. And they said, well, you must die. The people said, but it can't be Yonasan's fault because he's the one who saved the day. And therefore, obviously, God's not upset with him. And it's unlikely that would come. I've put him up to this mistaken Aveira.
Also, Shaul's
Just a minute. So, okay, you have to go back on it. What can you do? Right? But what are we going to do? So how do we explain all the events now? So why is God upset with them? Why did the lottery come out to Yonasan? Well, there's no explanation. Just the end of the story. That's it. Samach end. You'll see. There's no the end of the story. I mean, yeah, they didn't go to fight the Philistines. That's the next puzzle. So they didn't fight the Philistines. So I'll tell you my take on the story. It's not the same as the Malbim, but it's my take. All the same, right? I think that the real reason why is because Shaul was to blame, not Yonasan.
So why was Yonasan separated out?
Hang on.
Shaul.
I think the Shaul was the real reason. What did Shaul do wrong? Correct. Didn't Shmuel say to him that God's annoyed with you? He said God's going to find himself another king.
The AC.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
It's gonna make a loud squeaky noise. Everyone okay with that?
Yes.
Really loud and squeaky than stuffy and.
Oh, it's set to on.
What was that?
That's what the squeak is.
It's not doing anything.
Whatever.
No.
So,
You know how you kick the TV.
we know that God was upset with Shaul, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe Shaul's to blame. Now the lottery came out to be Yonasan, but I don't know if that proves anything. Let me explain to you. I'll explain to you why it doesn't prove anything. Because if God is meant to speak through the lottery, the fact that the lottery falls onto Shaul means nothing. There's 1 in 2 chance, right, that if you put 2 pieces of paper, one with the name Shaul and one Yonasan, it's going to fall on Yonasan, right? So it doesn't prove very much, unless you actually believe that this is a message from God. But why do you think God's going to speak to you through a lottery when he didn't speak to you through the Urim and Thummim? You hear?
You.
What?
It's not just you.
What do you mean it's not just you? What do you mean? No! Shaul wanted to know, should we go out to fight? And the Urim wouldn't answer him. Fine. So God's annoyed with you. So now you do a lottery. So he's still not speaking to you. It's got to come out on somebody.
He's not speaking to you. He's speaking to the rest of Klal Yisrael through the lottery, not directly to you.
Why not? If God doesn't speak to me, so he's not speaking to anybody. No, but telling them to go out to fight is also not speaking to Klal Yisrael. Klal Yisrael want to know, should we go out and fight? And God doesn't answer us. Why? Because he's annoyed with somebody. But that's somebody here. It's not necessarily Yonasan, because that's all part of the God not speaking to him.
So,
And that's why the people, I mean, that could be the people's argument. The people just said, there's no way that it's Yonasan's to blame. Why? Because God saved the day through Yonasan. You have to find someone to answer it. And maybe Shaul. Maybe I'm to blame. Maybe it was my fault. And that's why God didn't speak to me. And that's why the lottery got messed up. And therefore Shaul said, okay, he took the blame.
So kill himself.
But he
That's one way to
got
look at it.
Then they'll have no king.
Yonasan. It can't be Yonasan because
He doesn't need to do that. Because if it's just a message from God, that's not just because he annoyed you, he just to find out this answer. God doesn't want the king to die. He wants the king to do tshuva. The king is, I think if he'll carry on. See, what does the king have to do? Carry on. Vaya'al Shaul me'acharei Pelishtim. So Shaul went up from going after the Pelishtim. Vaya'al, he went up. Me'acharei, from following the Philistines. Uflishtim holchulim kaimon. So the Philistines had a chance to go back to their place. So the Philistines went home and they were safe. So Shaul realized now that God doesn't want them to continue. So God had made a tremendous miracle through Yonasan to save the day. Interesting, the miracle wasn't through him. may as well go through Yonasan, because God's not upset with Yonasan, God's upset with Shaul. But on the other hand, it could be Shaul, so okay, so if God's upset with me, I have to do something about it. So what does he do? Look at the next passage. V'Shaul lochad hamelucha al Yisrael. Shaul conquered the melucha. Melucha means the kingdom on Israel. So I heard that some asked, what do you mean he was already king? No, it means because since the Philistines had somewhat control over the country, so he wasn't completely in control, and now he was more in control. Okay, could mean that. But I would like to make a different suggestion. It actually means, possibly, that at this point, he understood in order for him to get the Melucha back, he's got to do something and show that he's not scared to fight for Klal Yisrael. He has to do something, which is exactly what he did. Vayilachem saviv, and he fought around. Vayilachem, to fight, as in with milchama. Saviv, all around. B'chol ha'oyevav, against all his enemies. B'Moab, against Moab. U'bivnei Ammon, and the sons of Ammon. Be'edom, u'b'malchi Tzova. Those are the kings of Syria. Like Aram Tzova. Have you heard of Aram Tzova? No, you heard of
Heard of Aram.
Aram Tzova is Syria. So Tzova is the area. U'beplishtim, and against the Philistines. U'b'chol asher yifneh, and everywhere where he turned, Yarshia. Now that's a difficult word to translate. It's obviously on the word Russia, which means...
He went ahead.
No, that's with an aleph. Evil, like a Russia, like the one of the four sons, Chacham Russia, Reish Shin Ayin. Now, it doesn't mean evil in the fact that Shaul was evil. No, he was a big tzaddik. It means he was evil. That means that he really got the guys on the other side, right? That's what it means. Wherever he went, it really means he was successful, right? Right. But it means his expression said he was successful in his battles against them.
Why does it say it differently? Like Moab, and then the sons of Ammon.
No idea.
Edom.
Vayas Chayil. I had the same problem. Vayas Chayil, and he was valiant. Chayil, like Aish Chayil. And what he did, he was successful, brave. Vayachas Amalek, he even struck Amalek.
So Chayal.
A Chayal is a soldier.
Right. What's the difference?
This is Chayil.
Aish
Chayil, what does that mean?
Women of valor.
Right, doesn't mean a female soldier, right? So Chayal is a soldier. Now, Chayal is also a man of Chayil. He's also valiant, brave, right? But that's just one type.
Right. People know where it does.
What?
A female soldier.
Oh, God forbid. That's Aish Chayil, no, more sense.
No, but she's such a strong
Okay,
woman.
right. So that's what you mean by the word soldier. Okay, so it doesn't mean soldier, it means Chayil, right?
I'm trying to make a joke.
Yeah, okay. Yes, it does. She is soldiering on, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean she's not. Okay. Vayas Chayil, and he did great stuff. Vayachas Amalek, and he struck Amalek. Vayatzel es Yisrael, and he saved Israel miyad shoisehu, from all those who would attack.
Didn't it already say that?
What?
Didn't it just say that?
No, it said enemies.
Oh.
Right? And now it's talking about Amalek, and that's a general term. He saved Jews, anyone who attacked us. No, they're enemies. They didn't necessarily attack us. We attacked them. But anyone who attacked us, Shaul came and saved. So it looks like Shaul is doing a great job of his job as king, even though he was already being told by the Navi that HaKadosh Baruch was going to look for another king. So my guess is that he realized if HaKadosh Baruch was not talking to him because of this, he's upset with him, then there's something he can do about it. Even though Shmuel said you're going to lose the kingdom, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there's no going back on that. And that's why it says that through these actions, that maybe he got the Melucha back. Even though he'd lost it, Shmuel said he lost it, he got it back. How did he get it back? Through his actions of his courage and his acting as a good king.
So did these, when it says the Ammons and the whatever, these nations, that just happened? He just like currently, he went and just attacked people?
Mm-hmm.
It's like a very like all like I think it's
These are our enemies. These
Very,
people
very
over the last
short.
400 years have been giving us problems.
Why did he stop
Very
going after the Plishtim and then immediately went after them?
No, it doesn't immediately. I mean, it's that night. This is unusual. I mean, it's that night. He wanted to take the opportunity, right? Which is unusual. You don't usually attack at night. So since God didn't answer him, he didn't think that was a good idea. But then a month later, he attacked Ammon. A month later, he attacked this time. And then God, so all our enemies around were all attacked and put in their place.
Yeah.
And we saved from anyone who attacked us.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Vayiyu b'nei Shaul. Who were the sons of Shaul? Yonasan was the oldest. Vayishvi umalki Shua. So he's got 3 sons. There actually was another one who's, we'll find out later on. V'shem shtei b'nei Saba, the names of his 2 daughters. Shem HaBechira, the older daughter. Bechira, like Bechor. Right? I don't know if that means she was necessarily the Bechor, but she was the older daughter. Meirav. Shem HaKtana. Michal. Now both of those women play a role in the story later on, as opposed to the other sons don't play much of a story. Yonasan does, and the 2 daughters also do. V'shem Aishes Shaul, the name of Shaul's wife. Achi Noam. Bas Achi Ma'atz. V'shem Sar Tziva'o, the name of the general of his army. Sar is the minister. Tziva'o, his army. So the head of Shaul's army was someone called Aviner, although he's usually known as Avner, as you'll see in the next pasuk. Aviner means Avi, my father. Ner, a light. So my father is a light, or I'm a light to my father, whatever you want to say.
Aviner ben Ner.
Aviner ben Ner, because his father's name was Ner. So his father called him Aviner, because his father was Ner. Well, the child's father was Ner. Aviner. Dod Shaul, and he was the uncle of Shaul. Who was the uncle of Shaul? Ner was the uncle of Shaul, not Aviner.
Is that the same one from before?
Yeah. Right? So Aviner, or Avner as he's known, was Shaul's cousin, because he was the son of Shaul's uncle. The Kish, Avi Shaul, Kish, who was the father of Shaul, we knew that already. Vener, Avi Avner, and Ner, the father of Avner, Ben Aviel, they were both sons of Aviel. That's how we know that Kish and Ner were brothers, so Shaul and Avner were cousins. That's all the mishpachology of Shaul. You know, his sons, his daughters, his wife, and his cousin. And the war was strong against the Philistines. Kol Yemei Shaul, all the days of Shaul. Means there was a constant war between Shaul and the Philistines.
Wall of war.
War. Milchama. Battle. War. Kol Yemei Shaul, all the days of Shaul. V'ra Shaul would see. Kol Ish Gibor, any man who was mighty, strong. V'chol Ben Chayil, and anyone who was valiant. Not necessarily a Gibor, but he could be Chayil in other ways. You could be a good spy, you could be a good runner, you could be lots of different things without being a Gibor. Or a good strategian, whatever the word is, right? Vayas ve'yu ve'elav, he would gather in to him, means would make him part of his cabinet. Okay, anyone who felt would be good for his army, the general, they all joined. He brought them into his army and into his inner cabinet of advisors. So that is the end of a long chapter.
He didn't have a cabinet prior to this, or he got rid of them.
Very annoying.
No idea.
They came back.
No, they weren't mentioned, so how am I supposed to know? No, it looked like he didn't have. You know, I mean, yes, did he have the head of his army? Wasn't mentioned. Could have been the head of our
It's like
army
he had
now.
1 or 2 guys, and by the end of it, he had like 15 guys. Sounds like it.
Yeah, I'm not. I can't provide you with there's no hint to what it was up to now. Okay, we'll stop there. Start a new chapter. So please go tomorrow. It's a very, very central chapter to the future. It is hot in here. We have to sort this thing out.
Razor, can you check if the window can be? There's a window there.